Hi art fans. So today we're going to be talking about using color paper with your colored pencils and different techniques used to convey the most successful outcome possible. The first half of this video is going to be a little bit about my journey using colored paper, my hits and my misses, and then we will go into a little bit more of a structured step-by-step slash how-to video. Okay, all right, let's get started. So when I started using colored paper with my colored pencil drawings, I started out slowly and with colors I felt like I could work with easily as I learned how to develop the technique. So here I'm using a Canson paper that's a peach that was very close to a cream or a white that I would be very comfortable with using. And it was almost a neutral. It was a neutral place to start, which allowed me to be braver with my color choices as I continue to develop my drawing techniques on color paper. One thing I noticed is that the colored pencil was reacting differently in intensity, saturation, tint, tone, hue in general. It was interacting differently with each color paper I was using. So here is an example of one of my first color keys I did when I started using this rosy pink. Again, it's a Canson paper for this Vanitas drawing that I was doing. And you can see on the right hand side the pink strip, that's the edge of the paper. But learning how to incorporate the color into the drawing was a different kind of challenge. You can see in the rock in the very top of the drawing that pink is present, but I really missed an opportunity in this drawing to really showcase that pink. So I want to talk to you about the paper I'm using today in this video. It's a Faberino color drawing paper at 160 gram weight. It's a great drawing paper. I highly recommend it. You can buy it in these drawing packs. This is the title card for the drawing paper pack. It's 9 by 12 sheets, 12 assorted colors. Really, really fabulous. Now, one side happens to be textured and the other side is much smoother. So in this video, I will be using the textured side because we're just doing studies, but I am going to show you how you can get really beautiful results using the smooth side as well. So before we get started on the studies on the Faberino paper, I want to talk to you a little bit about my experience with this paper. This is a short series that I did on blue paper on the smoother side. Now these were studies and they have various levels of complexity and simplicity to them, but they give you kind of an idea of how far you can push the paper or how little. And you can really utilize the paper as a narrative agent within your composition. Now here I have this beautiful pink paper. I use the smooth side. There's still a little bit of a tooth, a little bit of a texture to it, but you can get so much beautiful detailing and a high level of contrast within your colors. That the Faberino paper, I really love the saturation that is conveyed, and it really allows me to cultivate many layers within my color development. Now, with this orange one, I wanted to show you how you can get a really beautiful, dense color application on the smooth side of the paper. Now, again, in our study, we're going to be using the textural side because I want you to kind of see how you can play with the texture of the paper to help cultivate that color to pop out. But I did want you to see that it is possible to get a beautiful smoothness within your application. So today we are going to explore colored paper with our colored pencils. Now, I know working with colored paper can be a little confusing, maybe daunting, scary, but that's where I come in to help and guide you through this process. So to ease ourselves into working with colored paper, I thought we would work first with like colors. So we're going to use this yellow pepper as our subject matter, and we're going to start with the yellow paper. After we do the yellow paper, then we will go to its complement on the color wheel, which is violet. Now, I didn't have a dark violet paper. I have this lavender paper, but I think we're gonna still end up with some pretty exciting results. So let's go ahead and get started. I highly recommend that before you get going on your project or your study or just working with color paper in general, that you create a key card. And I create key cards every time I use a different color. And you can see these examples here from the Faberino drawings earlier in the video. So let's go ahead and take a look at this pepper and think about the colors that we may want to use in this pepper. Now, by no means do you have to only use the colors on that key card. You'll see in the video how I continue add on to that key card as I decide on different colors as I go, and that's fine. But you definitely want, if you're using this pepper example, a lemon yellow, a canary yellow. I think I've also got a yellow ochre. There's definitely a cream involved. I also have a terracotta color. So really think about those yellows and those yellow oranges that are present. And then you want to see how they translate on the yellow paper versus the lavender paper. And you can see an incredibly high contrast against the yellow and the lavender paper. That's because they're complementary colors. So when you put complementary colors together, they're going to vibrate. They're going to create a color dynamic that almost opposes each other, that creates a really beautiful visual interest because you've got that vibration occurring visually. So I also grabbed a lime peel color, a grassy green color. I think there's also an olive. There's also some very purpley browns, like this nougat one that I chose, or this lilac. And later on, when I use the lavender paper, I'll also use a black cherry color as well. I also grab a couple different grays as well. Now, I'm not going to list out every color I'm using in this video because we're just learning, we're doing studies, and so I didn't want you to feel like you had to use certain colors or it wasn't going to come out. That's not this kind of assignment or this kind of video. So feel free that if you're following along, that you experiment with the colors that you have in your color pencil collection. Okay, so we're going to start with the yellow paper. Now, the way I'm going to approach this study is I'm going to try to work my dark colors first up to my light colors. And I'm really going to try to focus on utilizing that yellow paper as part of the yellow in my image, okay? So you can see how the texture is really coming through with this paper. And that's fine. If that's the aesthetic you want, and that's what we want with this study, then that's great. But if this was something very undesirable, then I would have flipped the paper over to the more smooth edge. But I'm going to allow that texture to really come through so I can showcase as much of the color paper as possible. Just because you started with a key before you did your project or your drawing, your study, doesn't mean you can't add colors later. So you can see that I'm going back and forth, matching colors to my paper as I add them. This way I have a visual history of all the colors that I will be using so that I can reference back to that paper when I decide to use yellow again in the future. So don't be afraid to slow down your process and really allow yourself to build up your color surface. If you go too hard with your colored pencil too quickly, you're not going to be able to get all of the layering of colors to achieve a more naturalistic drawing in the end. So you want to make sure that you slowly build up your surface, and as you're doing that, you're increasing the pressure of the colored pencil over time. Now, sometimes you can use a drawing tool called a blending marker, and what this does is it takes the polychrome colored pencil that you're using, which is oil based, and it just allows a smoother transition. It smooths out the drawing of the mark making that's occurred with your colored pencil. Now, this isn't a guaranteed technique. Some people love it, some people don't. It's just another added material cost. So don't feel like you have to use these blending markers. They do sort of speed up the process in a way, and they do soften the transitions of your colors. So there are some pros and cons to this blending marker, but obviously I'm using it so you can see how it can benefit you in this drawing exercise. So at this point, I'm just kind of going back and forth with my light um, colors and my dark colors, my medium tones, and I'm building up my surface one step at a time. Now, one thing I do want to reiterate is that we're using yellow paper, it's a yellow pepper. So I don't need to cover the whole drawing of that pepper with colored pencil. I can leave some areas absolutely absent of color material, drawing material, because I am letting that yellow paper do the work for me. I'm allowing the yellow to be its color on its own. Okay, so since this is a study, I am not going to really focus so much on refinement as much as a understanding of the object I'm drawing. The whole purpose of a study is to give you a more specific, in-depth view of a single item that you are trying to focus on drawing. So it's not so much about achieving perfection, but understanding the object you are drawing. And that's the true purpose of studies. Now, if I wanted to take this study and expand upon it, I would create a composition. I would create several objects together with this pepper to really focus on something that could be achievable as a finished, polished drawing. So there's only but so far I'm going to take this drawing. Of course, you can take it to a very polished look, a very finished feel, but that's not what interests me in studies. This is just an exploration into color for me, so I am not going to push this to, say, a hyper realistic format. That's not my interest, and if that's yours, go for it. I would love to hear back from you and see what you've done. But for me, it's really about the process of achieving an understanding of what I am drawing. And I hope that you will be able to have a better understanding of the objects you are drawing after this video. Okay, well, this was the colored pencil study on yellow paper. I hope you enjoyed it, and now we're going to get started on the study using the lavender paper. Okay, so you want to make sure that you have your lavender key card available so that you can add some colors when you find it necessary. And you're going to want to start with your light colors first. Now with the yellow paper, because it was already really light, I suggested you start with your dark colors first. We're going to do the exact opposite. I find that students either really love starting dark and then light first, or vice versa, and they have a strength between the two. For me, I really prefer going light to dark, especially when I'm working on colored paper. So you might find that you end up with a preference. I think it's a little easier to go this route, especially when you're working with paper that has a darker hue to it. But of course, everyone is different, and I am only showing you one way, one method of doing it. There's so many other ways of manifesting your studies and your drawings. So ultimately, you do you, but I'm hoping that this is going to prove to be helpful in your drawing development. So I'm going to start using those
purpley browns that I was talking about briefly in the beginning of the video. And as I am creating my layers, in order to allow the lavender paper to be a compatible component in my drawing layering process, I'm going to work very lightly. I'm not going to go too heavy in my application because I want that lavender to work with the browns, with the darks that I am utilizing. So I'm going to also, as I build in my color, I'm going to bring in those yellows to allow the shadows to create a really beautiful color mixture as I'm creating a sense of dimensionality. And when you are forming your drawing, creating dimensionality with your drawing, with your color, make sure that you return to your local color, your color that you are using to explain what it is you're drawing. In this case, it's a yellow pepper. So we want to make sure that we consistently return to that yellow, regardless of whether it's in the shadow or in the highlight. We want to remain true to our subject. Now there is a benefit to using the blending marker in regards to the fact that it's really going to create smooth transitions between the dark and the light on this lavender paper, and you can see how smooth the transitions are that I'm working into right now. Again, it's not a necessary drawing tool. It's just kind of something that allows you to speed up the drawing process, but it can have its benefits in regards to creating something that's very polished. Okay, art fans, I hope this video was helpful in utilizing colored pencil and colored paper. As you saw in the beginning of the video, there are so many ways of achieving different looks and styles utilizing the colored paper. I hope you will Have fun exploring in your own way. If you enjoyed this video, click the like button, and also check out my other videos. I have a lot of videos on colored pencil and in drawing in general, and I also have some videos on art history subject matter as well. Okay, art fans, good luck and get to drawing. Until next time.